Welcome back to the Creatives Rule the World podcast. It's Tracy Matthews here. I am so excited for this episode. So I just got back from Hawaii and I had an amazing time with Jason, checking out for over 3 weeks with the way that the travel dates worked. And there is something to be said to set up your business in a way where you can actually take time off and take a full break, which has been amazing. And I'm mentioning this because today's episode is with my friend Elizabeth Hartke, or Liz Hartke, and she's a leadership expert who teaches CEOs how to set their businesses up for success and also to help them be a little bit more strategic in how they're managing their time. So even if you're someone who is a solo business owner and you're just starting out, or someone with a small team, or you're starting to scale and grow your business and your leadership skills, this is going to be a great episode for you. And the reason why I am having Liz on now, I actually interviewed her back in February, which has been interesting because I meant to have this episode go live a couple of months ago, but I'm like, you know what? I'm going to wait because she has so much great knowledge, but I also had her as one of my guest teachers inside of the Art of Reinvention program. Let me just ask you this. You know those moments in your business when you feel like you're stuck, like you're working harder than ever, and somehow you feel like you're moving backwards, or you know that you're actually meant for something so much bigger, but you can't quite break through that invisible ceiling that's keeping you small? Yeah, I know you know. I've been there too. So today I'm going to dive in deep with Elizabeth, and she's going to show you how to step into your true role as a visionary CEO in your own life and business. Liz has spent over 12 years helping leaders and ambitious entrepreneurs, including some of the greats like John C. Maxwell, unlock their God-given potential and scale not just their businesses, but themselves. So in today's episode, we're going to talk about how you scale yourself before your business, and she's going to share the 7 non-negotiable blocks every visionary CEO needs and their weekly schedule, and why most entrepreneurs are spending 95% of their time on the wrong things, her game-changing visionary matrix that will help you break free from that exhausting cycle of easy but heavy tasks that are draining your soul, the one powerful disruption question that will determine whether you're truly ready for your next level or just dreaming about it, why successful entrepreneurs often end up with the biggest regret of their careers and how to avoid this trap, and her step-by-step framework for getting out of the weeds and into your sweet spot where your natural gifts, what lights you up, and what your business needs all collide. Here's something really exciting. As I mentioned, Liz is one of the guest teachers in my Art of Reinvention program, and it's open for early bird enrollment right now. So if you've been feeling that call to pivot, transform, or step into your next chapter, you're going to want to stick around because I'm going to share more at the end. Or you can just head on over to tracymatthews.com/Art of Reinvention and apply for the program today. So grab your favorite notebook, get ready. Don't grab your notebook if you're driving because that's dangerous, obviously, or if you're working with a torch or something, right? Because we got a lot of jewelers listening here. But I want you to capture these nuggets because wherever you are, you're going to get a lot out of this episode.
I'm so excited, Tracy. I get to interview you in your podcast studio right now. We're down in Arizona, and I've been looking forward to this conversation so much because I think the path that you're on right now is one that a lot of entrepreneurs are going to relate to deeply and also finally feel seen, because it can be really lonely when you feel this nudge and this call into some kind of expansion or pivot or new path or calling or whatever it might be, and you feel obligated almost to maintain what is.
Exactly.
But when you're born to create, maintenance is a slow death, right? We're not born to just maintain.
No.
And I think that you can speak to this really beautifully. So I would love, first though, if you could tell us a little bit more about just the origin story, about you, kind of the path up to this point before we jump into kind of what's coming.
All the things.
Yeah.
So I started my career as a jewelry designer. It was a little bit of a sad event that spurred that because my mom passed away when I was about 22, just right before my 22nd birthday.
So young.
Yeah, she's 45 years old.
Oh my gosh.
And it was a pivotal moment for me because I saw this woman who had lived her life for her children. She had 6 kids, finally was like in a happy relationship. My parents had gotten divorced at that point, but in a happy relationship, starting a business, doing all the things for herself. And then overnight, it was kind of taken away. And so it was in that moment that I'm like, I got to find something that I like really love to do, because it is too short. Like, that's like 23 years that I have to live if I end up only living my life as long as she did. Immediately after that, I sort of like re-engaged back in school, and I ended up taking a jewelry making class at university. And I was stoked because I found this like hidden talent that I had, and my mentor, teacher really mentored me and showing me, she's like, you know, you really have this talent for design, but also you understand what the market wants. And that's like a unique combination if you can like actually structurally make the pieces and understand what the market wants. So from that young age of 22, I was like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to be a designer. I saw my name in lights and all the things. Like, I was so excited about it. And so I went off on this mission to start a business. And I launched my first company in my late 20s. And that business was amazing. I grew it for 11 years sold millions of dollars worth of jewelry, had celebrity clients, 350 stores, like Anthropologie and Sundance catalog, some like really great account. It was an amazing time in my life. And then 2008 happened. And in September of that year, I shipped a bunch of massive orders to these big accounts. And 3 weeks later, everything was gone, and all the bankruptcy notices started rolling in from the companies. And that next October, the month after September, the year before, I had shipped over $150,000 worth of jewelry. It was usually like my biggest month. That year, I shipped 10. And so I was left with this huge, oh shit moment. I'm sorry, I hope I can say that on your podcast. What do I do? I have this $60,000 minimum a month nut that I have to cover, and the money is not coming in.
I'm getting a pit in my chest.
I know, it's awful. It was like so traumatic. And I really came to this come to Jesus moment. What am I going to do with my life? Like, I identify as a jewelry designer, like what's next for me? And so I'll fast forward a little bit to shorten the story, but I decided to close that business down. But under the support of some mentorship, because I hired a consultant at the time, and he like was pulling me aside because I was just such an emotional wreck, because it was like overnight my dream was wiped out, and I was, who am I if I'm not doing this thing?
Right.
He helped me see a different way and understand like what my true gifts were and where I was showing up in the business in my genius and where I wasn't, right? And I started a new jewelry company, just basically in a different way that was more sustainable. I wouldn't say like as big a scale, but also much more profitable, which was like an amazing thing for me. So I launched that company and learned how to meet my customers on the internet, which was kind of a new thing at that time.
Yep.
You know, I think when I started my first company, there wasn't even email. And now there was this thing where you could shop on websites and stuff like that. So I restructured the business model. I made it very simple. I made it basically completely aligned to my skill set and talents, and it grew very quickly. I was making more money than I ever had in my entire life up until that point. And because I was a pioneer in the independent designer scene back in the early and late 90s, I had a lot of people coming to me because they had seen me grow, coming to me asking to pick my brain.
Oh, how that,
yeah.
Don't you love that?
Can you meet for coffee? Can I just get all your experience for free?
Yeah.
And so I started consulting with a couple of brands, which was amazing. And at a certain point, I'm like, I can see where the gap is. They can't really afford to pay me. At that time, I think I was charging $1,000 a month, which was still undercharging at that time. But they don't also value what I have to give at the price point that I need to charge to make it worth it for me.
Right.
So I decided to do something that hadn't really been done in my industry. I was a complete disruptor. In 2012, I launched an online education company.
You were ahead of the curve.
I was way ahead of the curve. Basically, teaching jewelry business owners how to run a successful business in this tight-lipped industry. The thing that I could not stand about being in the jewelry industry was that you would have these friends who you'd have dinner with, you'd be spending a lot of time with, you know, sharing certain things with, but then you go and ask them for something as simple as like, where'd you get your hang tags? And they'd be like, oh, I can't give you my trade secrets.
You're kidding.
Because they were worried about you having a competitive edge over them. So I'm like, this is BS. Like, I'm not buying into this. I don't think that when someone helps you with your business, it actually takes away from you. I actually think when we help each other, it lifts everyone up.
Totally.
And so I launched Flourish and Thrive Academy. Our number one core value was community over competition. We've helped over 9,000 students over the course of the last 12, 13 years. And it's been amazing. And I've loved it. Except that I built this business based on my biggest trauma, which was having my first company wiped out and feeling so unsafe and so financially insecure because I wanted no one else to have to go through what I went through. And that was the whole premise of why I started the company in the first place. And through this process of growing and learning, it's been an amazing ride and we've helped so many people. I just realized there's something more out there to support people in their creativity and helping them evolve to their next level so that they have not only experience and the desire to be able to use what makes them weird or their creative gifts to actually make money, but also the financial literacy to help support them in their next move and to really build great wealth with their creative gifts.
I love expansion and evolution that's rooted in your own testimony, like your own experience, your own suffering, your own path that you had to, tumultuous path you had to walk. Can we go back to that point in 2008? And can you tell me, because I'm trying to think of some of the people that you'll be serving going forward, how they might be able to relate to some of that just agony and struggle. And where was your mindset around money in that season in the first business that you had created?
Well, I think that I saw money as a tool to grow. I also use debt as a tool to grow, which I think is a healthy thing to do if you're doing it the right way.
Yep.
I think the downside of what I wasn't doing really the right is understanding like what needs to happen in order for the debt to get paid off or to get the cash flow moving quickly. In an inventory business, I don't know if you know this or not, but a lot of us, when we were shipping big orders, because sometimes I get orders for like $100,000 and you don't necessarily have $100,000 in the bank or, the amount of money that you need to produce the orders. So we work with a factor, and factors take a percentage of your receivables, but they pay you for 50% of the order as soon as you ship it, so that as soon as it hits the vendor, you're getting paid for part of your order. So that worked great. But then, when everything crashes and there's no orders coming in, you have no receivables, like what do you do? So my mindset, I think I was doing the best that I could with the tools that I had, but there was still so much to learn. And I think the part that was so stressful during that time was that I felt like the rug had been pulled out of me and I really didn't feel like I did anything wrong. It was just a place and time. Yeah. And because I didn't know what I didn't know at the time, I think the thoughts that were going through my head are like, you're a loser, you don't know what you're doing, you're creative, you're bad at business, like all the things that they tell us in school that creatives are, right?
Yeah.
But creativity is actually the best gift because you have so much resourcefulness when you really tap into it.
Yeah, I'm so glad you said that because I bet you a lot of people listening right now just had their ears perked up when you said the story you were telling yourself. Because so often we place meaning on something that happened, like a market crash, completely out of your control. And we start to redefine what that means about us. Even things that we did have control over, right? Like maybe we put out a product or an offer or screwed something up with a client that maybe we can take ownership of it. Yeah. But we still define that situation in a way that is so negative to ourselves that we would never place on someone else. If we were mentoring someone else and they went through...
No, we'd have compassion.
Yeah, we'd never be like, you loser.
You're a total loser.
Yeah,
I can't even believe you did that.
Right. So just the fact that you're acknowledging that, I think is so huge for people. And I know that's a big part of the path that you're walking now. I'm curious too, can you just speak to this for a moment? Because another thing that I see a lot is entrepreneurs, small business owners, when they go through tough times, they hide it. Yeah. Because they have shame around it for whatever reason, whether it's something that happened to them, bad luck, or something that they screwed up, or that they just like a blind spot, something they didn't see coming. And because of that, they put out this outward appearance of it's all good, see, I'm still thriving, when they're really like a ball of stress, wondering when the rug's going to get it pulled out from under them and defining themselves as a loser and all those things. Can you tell us a little bit more on like how you were feeling in that time period and what you did with it. Like, did you go to anybody and say, hey, I'm struggling with these things? Did you hold it in and just try to keep strong-arming your way through it? I'm just so curious what it was like behind the scenes.
It was all in the messaging.
Marketing.
I mean, I'm joking a little bit, but
Right.
you're right. I mean, I think that there is a lot of underlying shame, and I don't understand. I mean, I guess I understand where that comes from, because honestly, I'm in another season of descaling right now. It's a little bit more intentional than this one, but it's still very scary. And it also, like, being really candid about where I am feels a little bit humbling. I wouldn't say humiliating, because I know it's just part of my journey, but it's humbling because you feel like you're going backwards in a way, but I know that great things, you have to go backwards sometimes to get back to basics in order to rebuild.
Yeah.
It's the only way. Because I tried it the other way, to keep building, and then there was never space to be able to step back to think about the new thing.
Right.
And so it can be done. I'm not saying that, it's just in my journey, that's not where I was. So back then, let me just tap into this for a second, because I can like visualize. Okay, so, I mean, I was a train wreck, quite frankly.
I appreciate the honesty, because I know I can relate to that for sure.
Well, I remember, so I hired this consultant at the time. His name's Phil. God rest his soul. He died in a plane crash because he had this hobby of flying planes. And when I found out, it really gutted me, because he really changed my life. He's the first person I ever invested in myself with. And he was this old man who had worked on a bunch of big corporations, including some of Trump's, like, restructurings and bankruptcies and all those things. And he was helping, his like basically retirement project was to help small businesses, because he'd made all his wealth already at this point. And he rented this like Regis office space in Penn Station. And I would go there when I was living in New York City, in this big boardroom. And I remember him sitting there, and he would like tell me these stories and parables and through the Bible, because he's a very religious man. And I was like, okay, I understand what you're saying, but like, I'm a mess right now. Like, how does this relate to me? And he sat me down one day, and I remember just like not being able to keep it together. And my sister was working with me at the time, and she's very much more stoic than I am. She is emotional. I wouldn't say that she's not emotional, but she just like stuffs it down a little bit more. And it was stressful for her, because she was like running my business, and she had taken a big risk to come and work with me, and like basically was working for free at this time, and it wasn't fair to her. But I'm so outwardly emotional. Like, I would just cry in the meetings. I couldn't like control myself. And he was very patient with me. And he's like, Tracy, this is an opportunity for you to just actually step back and like understand, like, what is it? What do you love? He would say that to me. Like, what do you love? What do you really want to do? What do you really enjoy about your business? And if we were to do this all over again and start from scratch, what does that look like? And so you asked me how I was feeling. It felt like a train wreck. I was completely ashamed. I definitely, in the beginning, did not tell people the real story.
Yeah.
I think it's important to be careful about when you share the story, because if you're operating, Brene Brown says, if you're speaking from your wound and not your scar, then you're just a hot mess. And I remember even when I was launching Flourish and Thrive Academy, I think my bankruptcy, I'd been going through it for years, and there was reasons beyond that, but it took about 3-4 years for the bankruptcy to be final. And once it was finally final, I'm like, okay, this is it. I'm going forward with this consulting business, because now it feels like everything's kind of tied up. And I remember trying to even share the story then. Every time I would go on camera to try and talk about it, I would start crying. And someone said to me, they're like, you should try to like hold back your tears, because it makes it feel, cringy or whatever. So that's not the word they use, but that was kind of the energy behind it. And, I was offended by it at first, but then also took what she had to say. I'm like, maybe there's some healing still that I need to do here. But in the beginning, I definitely was like massaging the message, just saying like, I wanted to pivot because I wasn't happy, which was not untrue. That was definitely the truth. I wasn't happy in my business. And I think that's part of the reason why, instead of fighting for it and restructuring, I decided to close the business down and file for bankruptcy. But also it gave me some space to like actually understand how this huge, what appears to be this massive failure, a defining moment in my life, a hugely traumatic experience that I had, how that could actually help other people in understanding that this is just part of the journey, right? But I had to do a lot of mindset work. I mean, it was a lot. I worked with the coach for a while after I met with Phil. That's when I learned the power of affirmations and like reframing your mind and restructuring your subconscious and understanding more about mindset work and how the subconscious mind works. And it's always a daily progress.
And I think that's super important to note. Like, you never just overcome these things, or at least I haven't.
It comes back.
It comes back. It's cyclical. New problems, same problems, just continual elevations of you, hopefully, to be able to handle those problems. So I think that's an important reminder for everybody listening, is stop expecting yourself to like, why am I facing this again? It's like, because you've decided to continue on. It's life. You're going to experience so many tough things. And I would even challenge you and say, I don't think you are going backwards to go forwards. I think you're going forwards, and this is what it looks like, right? Like, this is your intentional path forward, so that you can lean into where you're being called versus stay comfortable where you've been and where you've planted yourself in this previous season. So talk a little bit more about this evolution and this pivot, because I think it's really going to resonate with people, and I just love the heart behind it. So I'd love for you to share more about that.
Well, I have 2 new offerings that are coming out into the world. So this is just one of my many reinventions. Like the one in 2008, I reinvented myself several times. And when I was kind of at this existential moment or crisis, I guess you should say, a couple months ago, or it actually is much longer than that, probably like 2 years ago. And I'm like, if I don't do this, what am I going to do? Like, I was really stuck because I couldn't see the vision beyond my existing vision, because I don't know if your listeners have ever felt this, but like, I became known in the industry. Like, people who have known me for 30 years are like, I listen to your podcast every day, and I get so much insight, even though sometimes the conversations seem like maybe more for like a startup. I still get so much insight, and there's so much I can learn. And I'm like, you're listening, like, it's just remarkable to me. But I feel like I've been pigeonholed a little bit in this industry, but my knowledge and depth of what I can teach can help so many people. And so I actually started asking other people to reflect back to me what they saw, or like how I've helped them. Because I have helped a lot of my friends. I've been in mastermind groups. I've helped a lot of people see different things. I've had hosted retreats that weren't just for jewelry designers and stuff like that. And I asked Jason one day, I'm like, what? Because you were saying before, we were talking in the interview that I did with you, it's like the thing that's so easy for you to get paid for, you take it for granted. And you're like, how can I charge for that?
Right. Yeah,
it's just so easy.
It's too obvious.
It's too obvious. And so I asked Jason, and I said, what is it that I do? Like, what do you think I can do in this next iteration? He's like, babe, it's so obvious. Like, you help people create big visions and help them reverse engineer how they're going to monetize it. And I'm like, but that's not, like, I can't get paid for that. It's so easy for me. Like, I can look at anyone and be like, this is what you can do and all the things. And I'm like, doesn't everyone have a big vision? And he's like, I don't. And it's not that he doesn't have a vision. He has on an amazing mission and has a great vision for his company and everything. But the way I see vision is so different, because when I was a kid, I didn't know this until I was an adult, but I'm dyslexic. And part of my story is that I had a hard time concentrating in school. Sometimes I would read things, and it's not that I couldn't read. I understood what I was saying. I wasn't that the numbers were transposing. I just couldn't remember a lot of things. And I would get bored in class because it wasn't engaging enough, because I need to be entertained. And I would be daydreaming all the time.
Casting vision in your mind.
Casting a vision. Like, I was like floating off in balloons and like imaginary worlds.
I love it.
So funny. I was just working with one of my coaches, and she's doing like hypnotherapy on it. She's like, okay, what do you see when you open the door? I'm like, oh my God, I'm in a cartoon. And I started laughing because it like brought me back to this time when I would be like spacing out in second grade, like daydreaming. But it's so easy for me, and it's so natural. Like, I can create a vision for someone else. It's like really easy for me.
Yep.
And so I've been through so many reinventions, just reinventing myself after marriage, reinventing myself, being a yoga teacher, reinventing myself as an entrepreneur at several different seasons in the 30 years that I've been an entrepreneur. And so I started to reflect back. I'm like, what was I doing? What did I do in all of those transitions? And I got very clear on, what what was I leaving behind? Like, what was no longer part of this next journey? I understood, I got really tapped into what I was excited about and what I wanted to work on in the gift, like sort of my natural innate gifts. I created a vision for the next thing. What did that look like? And then I dreamed even bigger. And then I started reverse engineering. Okay, how can I make money doing this? What are some of the ways that I could do that? How can I create a story around this transition that it makes sense to people who've been following me?
Yep.
How can I communicate that story? And how can I build a mission and basically like the impact behind that? And then how do I expand and get visibility for that? And what does that look like? And so that is basically the complete foundation of my Art of Reinvention program, because I've been talking to a lot of people. It's amazing. Like, everyone feels like they're in the same place. I feel like 2024 crushed people. They crushed their souls. I don't know what it is.
It really did. It was a heavy year.
It was a really heavy year. I think a lot of people are in the middle of an existential crisis, not knowing what to do next. And what I found is that people, like you said before, it's like if you don't have enough visionary CEO time to really think about what this next thing is, and you're not creating the space for yourself, you almost need a container and the accountability to do that for yourself. And if you don't, if you're not disciplined enough, which a lot of people aren't. And I've been talking to people, they're like, it's just I want to do this thing, but it's so much easier for me to just do what I know.
And on top of that, it's not just the container, because I know a lot of people that will block the time and then sit there and be like,
they don't know what to do.
what do I do? Like,
because they don't have the tools.
Right. So to give them the time,
structure,
the accountability, and the process is so helpful and so powerful. And I think also the permission. It's like, hey, I'm doing it. It's I'm going to show you what's working for me. And I think it's just kind of the death of the gurus saying, like, I know everything, and the honesty of what is actually real, saying, hey, I'm walking this path. I'm a few steps ahead. Come with me.
Exactly. And so I've been in this process of reinvention. I'm like, what do I do with the company? And around 2015, about 3 years in, my ego decided that I wanted to build something to sell. And I'm a coach. It's hard to sell a coaching business.
Yep.
People have done it, but it's hard to sell a coaching business unless it's a community and it's not revolved around you. So I made an intentional build when I built this company that it would be around my methodology, and I would train other coaches to coach for me, so it wasn't just about me, that the company wouldn't die if I wasn't the coach. The problem is I'm still the personality, and the sales require me.
Yep.
And I was just getting so burnt out. I'm like, I love my community. I love what I've been able to teach them. And I would love to train someone else to sell this thing, because what we teach is so good. It is literally like the premier in this industry. But if I'm so tied to all these launch cycles and all these things, I'm never going to be able to pursue what I want to do. Like, really my soul's calling, which I believe. And I've seen this for years. And it's part of my Creatives Rule the World brand, is that your creativity and the thing that makes you weird, the thing that makes you different, the thing that everyone's trying to hide from and trying to either fit in or put themselves in some external group or something like that, is actually the thing that's going to fuel you for the long haul. Yep. And it's the thing that's going to make you money. And I think a lot of people are like, oh, I'm not creative, I'm this or I'm that, but everyone's freaking creative. Everyone. Jason even said this morning. He's like, I'm not creative, because he is a little bit more analytical. We're like a little bit different ends of the spectrum. And I'm like, dude, you took the wealth dynamics test and you are a creator on the wealth dynamics test. Do not tell me you're not creative. And what that means is that you get your energy through creation. Right. Through doing, through moving. Like I'm a star on that test. So I get energy like doing things like this, like talking to people and amplifying people, having a conversation with you, amplifying you in our conversation and talking about my story. Like, that's really where I get my energy. Yeah. And so I love the sales aspect, but how can I get back into alignment with what I think the future of my mission is? And it's really to support creatives in their wealth building journey. And I know this to be true because even through all of my traumas and my reinvention with my businesses and money, the one thing that I feel like a lot of creatives in business struggle with is understanding the numbers, the financial literacy part, and also believing that they deserve to have great wealth. And so to me, and being able to, and understanding how to actually grow their wealth and financial abundance. And so the thing for me that's so exciting is like when I see like an amazing artist who's like flying on a private jet, I'm just like, yes, you go. Because that's like the best part.
Right.
Like you can do it. It's just about owning your weird.
Right.
Right? And stepping into that.
We were speaking a little bit before we started rolling around exactly what you just talked about, but specifically to kids.
Yes.
Can you speak to that? Because in each of us is this little kid who just still wants to belong, and we're still fighting against how we were created to be. And the longer we fight that, the less we'll ever get to know the version of ourselves that was really intended to be here and do this work and make our impact. And you know, having 4 little ones of my own, when you said that, like I just felt it in my gut of like, whew, I'm going home after this, and I'm making sure that every bedtime and, you know, meal and time I have with them is like continuing to cultivate that spirit in them and never allowing them to dull that for the sake of the world, right? So speak of it from that angle, because I think it's for us and the little ones inside of us, but many of us that listen into this have kids of their own and want to pass this idea along.
Can I tell a story about this first?
Please.
Okay. There's so many stories, and my story is really crazy because I was such a creative kid. And when I was little, like what was honored in our family was athleticism. Mm-hmm. I have several siblings who were like, one of them was a pro athlete, like they all played in college, they excelled. I was never I was a great athlete like in individual sports. Like I crushed aerobics in the 80s. I crushed yoga when I became a yoga teacher. But like team sports and stuff like that, where there was all this, it just was never my jam. And so, you know, of course we all want to be loved and we want to be admired by our parents and all those things. And it seemed to me that maybe creativity wasn't the thing that was actually going to make me shine. But it was who I was. And so I used to fantasize and dream about like being a fashion designer, because I used to sketch little wedding dresses for my Barbies and stuff like that. And as I grew up and went to high school and all this thing, I had a boyfriend. I was like so excited about it. And I remember when we first were starting to date, he like walked me to one of my classes, and he was walking me over to the art wing. And he says to me, he's like dropping me off, and he says to me, "Art classes are for stupid people." And literally I was like, well, I'm not stupid. Like I'm smart. And this is like literally like one of my whole things, like being a dyslexic kid, right. Not knowing I was dyslexic, wanting to be smart, having a hard time paying attention, but really working hard to try and stand out and get good grades. I'm like, oh, I cannot be stupid. I'm smart. Mm-hmm. So I stopped taking art classes at that moment in time. I went back to it though. And he was like really into math and science. So I ended up taking a biology class. And we had to take it anyway, but like I crushed biology and I didn't realize I was going to crush it. But most of the biology grade is you have to turn in this massive binder at the end of the semester. You spend all of the semester not really knowing what you're going to do, but you draw specimens in a microscope. So I hand this thing in. I think I do well, but all of a sudden the phone rings and I answer it. And there's a man on the other side asking to speak to my parents. He introduces himself as Mr. Gear. And I'm like, oh my God, this is my biology teacher. Maybe I failed. I'm like, they're not here right now. Can I take a message? And he's like, well, is Tracy there? And I was like, this is Tracy. And he's like, Tracy is Mr. Gear. And I was like, hi. He's like, I just want to tell you, you're one of 2 students who got an A+ in my class. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I was like, I'm smart. But I really think that I did well because of my creativity, because I was able to translate what those specimens look like in the microscope, and be able to draw them. And so this kind of carried along with me. And so it made perfect sense. Like I always knew that I was going to be an entrepreneur. I came from an entrepreneurial family. I could never fit into a box. The idea of working for someone else, because I was so argumentative, like just made me want to cringe.
Unemployable. Yeah. I get it.
And when I was working for other people, it was always in sales, like something that kind of gave you like a little bit more of a free range where you could talk to people and be out in the world, right? So this desire for kids like really came up. You know, I was married when I was young. I always thought I was going to have children with this man, but it didn't work out. We got divorced. There's a whole story there, but I'll leave it at that. I was 30 years old, single, had spent like my 20s in a relationship with someone who now I'm divorced from. And I was at a little bit of a crisis, but I knew that I wanted to make a living doing this thing that I love. So I was building my jewelry company and all of that was great. Ended up moving to New York City. And my siblings started having kids. I'm one of 8 children, and the first 6 that were with my mom, they were all having kids. So I would spend time with my little nieces and nephews, and they're all such brilliant souls. Like my one brother, who was a professional athlete, like one of his kids is like she's going to be an Olympian one day if she wants to be. She's like gnarly. And his son is not athletic at all, and it's challenging for him.
Yeah, I bet.
But he's like an engineer, and he's like the funniest, coolest kid. One of my other brothers, like their kids, like all have such distinct personalities. One of them is super artistic. The one in the middle, I'm like, she's gonna be a CEO. And then the youngest one is like, I'm like definitely gonna be a comedian or something. She's crazy. And so I would see like all these talents in them. And I'm like, one day I was sitting there in one of my daydreaming states in this personal development retreat, because Jason and I have done a lot of that together. And I had this vision. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is it. Because someone said to me once, like, you need to be working with kids. And I'm like, you can't, like, I want to make money. Like, you can't make money off of kids, really, like, in the way that I want to be able to scale it, like hosting big masterminds and stuff like that. But I had this vision of this place where kids would go, and we would help them, like, hone in their, like, biggest gifts, like, their biggest creative talents, and help them monetize it. And so this was the start of this idea and this passion that I have for supporting children. I don't really want to talk too much about that idea because it's part of this bigger vision. And I don't believe in scarcity, that someone's going to necessarily steal it, but I still am developing, and I just...
We'll save it for part 2.
I'm going to save it for part 2 for next interview. But that's when I was like, oh my gosh, this is it. Like, I want to go... Like, I've always wanted to be a motivational speaker, but I really want to be a motivational speaker for kids. Like being in a stadium. Like I remember that, like being so inspired by people coming into like our gymnasium, and there's someone who like really shifted the field for you and like made you think something differently. And so in this next season, that's going to be part of like one of my pillars for my business, is going, even if I have to donate my time, just going and speaking to schools and showing kids, you know, like this is your gift. Like, don't shy away from what you're naturally talented at. Don't let someone else tell you that you're not smart because you're creative. Because your creativity is going to express in such a different way. And I don't care what any of you say, you are all creative. It's just your expression of creativity that's different.
Yeah, exactly. And what a gift that's going to be to future generations who have such a warped view of what creativity is because of social media. And
an artist or like
right,
doing crazy stuff. Like,
right. But they're not really tapped into themselves. They're just watching what everyone else is doing. And it's like, what's trending? I'll do that.
Yeah.
Instead of who am I and what sparks joy in me and how was I made unique and different. And yeah, I think that's going to be such a treasure to the world. And
I'm so excited about it.
I bet. And that's how you know, right? Like when it's just gives you butterflies to think about. I want to talk a little bit about the financial literacy part. What is it that you think why is it that so many creatives, entrepreneurs, whomever, have this massive block when it comes to money, and they kind of probably unknowingly choke out the possibility of wealth without even realizing it by just how they think and perceive possibility when it comes to, you know, money, income, wealth generation?
So I think the first thing is that a lot of really like super creative types. Like I work with people who like are working with their hands and making a physical product, or have for years. And many of them, not all of them, are taught that in order to become an artist, you have to starve.
Starving artist, yeah.
I don't believe in that. I've proven that to be wrong, even though I've had, you know, a bankruptcy and stuff like that. Like things have gone really well for me in a lot of ways. But I think that there's this fear around acknowledging where you're at with the finances, because we talked about this earlier, there's some sort of shame tied into it.
Totally.
But the interesting part about it is like a lot of times when you're like, okay, add it up, like let's look at the numbers, like where are you? And they inevitably come back and they're like, oh my gosh, I'm way further ahead than I thought I was.
And they were probably scared to even look.
And they're scared to look for whatever reason, and it's nonsensical. And I think that when we can learn, all of us, because I feel like it's always a progression unless you're like a CPA or a CFO or someone who that's like literally like what you do for a living and you're doing it every single day. There is this ongoing like challenge that we each need to challenge ourselves into. And I say challenge in the respect of like challenge yourself to look at the numbers, to understand a little bit more about the numbers that drive your business. Like will it really take to reach that financial milestone? What will it really, how do you reverse engineer that? And there's so many simple ways that you can just do it at a high level that doesn't require like massive spreadsheets or anything like that.
Exactly.
It's just reverse engineering. Like how many units do I need to sell in order to hit that goal? And then if I can break that down into a daily number, what does that look like? Mm-hmm. And I remember this changing my life. So this was right after my bankruptcy, and I was like kind of in the early stage of like learning how to like grow a business online, and that was when my jewelry company online was like starting to take off. And because I was still kind of coming out of this trauma experience, I was attracting like broke people.
Yeah.
And so they were coming to me for custom engagement rings. They're like, I got $1,000 and I want a 10 karat diamond. I'm like, good luck. This is before lab diamonds. So, and I was working with this coach, and she got on this, called them daily whippings or whatever. It's a long story, but, and she said to me, like, what do you want? And I said, I want to design jewelry for rich people. Mm-hmm. And she's like, what does that look like? And I remember at that time in my life, I wanted to make $15,000 a month in profit. So we reverse engineered how many pieces I'd have to sell. It became so easy to actually hit the target once you got there. Cause I'm like, oh, that just means I had reverse engineered, like, oh, I closed like 50% of the people that I talk to. So if they're interested people and I can get them on a call, 50, and like if they're warm leads, usually it's an 80% close. So if I can get that many people on a call, like I know that I'm going to hit the number. It becomes so easy. And very quickly, I ended up doubling that number in a very short period of time. And so just by leaning into like reverse engineering what it would take, it changes everything. But then, I mean, there's so many numbers that you need to use to run your business. Mm-hmm. But I think cash flow projections are really powerful to help support you in understanding like what your cash flow needs are going to be moving forward. And I think in a lot of these service-based companies or course sale companies where they don't have a lot of recurring revenue, they're depending on launch to launch, that it's a lot of guessing. Mm-hmm. And it's scary because you don't necessarily have receivables.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I think that whenever you're in a state of lack of clarity, mm-hmm. it just breeds more confusion,
yes.
Which totally strips you of your confidence and leads to chaos. And that's the cycle that people perpetuate.
Why is that?
I don't know. I think
I do it for myself sometimes.
I do too. It's the reason I have it in my head is because like I remember doing that last week. But it's like you're one decision away from getting into a positive cycle, and it comes from, okay, I just need to regain clarity. And sometimes we fear those numbers. I'm not a numbers person. I hate spreadsheets. They make me want to poke my eyeballs out. I can't stand it. However, sometimes in seasons when I avoid it, and then we finally sit down, Michael's like, it's time, Liz.
We must look.
We have to do it. I'm like, okay, fine. We better have good snacks. Like, I'll show up if they're good snacks. And I look, I'm like, oh, we're killing it over here. Like, we could double down on that. Mm-hmm. And it's super empowering. It's like, you got to drop the pin. You have to live in reality if you want to build a business. And it's empowering because once you have your starting destination, you can punch in the directions or the final destination you want, and you get the directions. You get to figure out how to do it. And it's not this like, I'm just going to like blindly run and I have no idea where this is going to land. That's just such a chaotic, reactive way of living. And if you feel burnt out, it's because you're doing that.
Exactly.
So I love that because I think it's going to get, and I think it's fair to say there's a spectrum of looking at your finances, right? Like my husband's going to go into way more detail in every mm-hmm. line item. I'm going to be a little more zoomed out, but I can still be empowered.
Yeah, with the high level.
I can still have knowledge, and from that you can create more wealth opportunity. There's no such thing as like getting wealthy just without ever paying attention to how you're generating. that revenue and profitability. So I'm super excited for that because I think it's a definite need, and you're not coming at it from the angle of like, oh, I'm an accountant and I'm going to go teach you how to make a P&L. You're coming at it from a creative's perspective, from someone who has walked through tough financial times and abundant times, as someone who has a heart for other creatives and wants to see them succeed and wants to equip them with what's necessary to do that. So I will champion that thing out into the world once it's birthed.
You're amazing.
I'm so excited for that for people. And
I am so excited for it too.
Yeah,
it's so needed.
I can tell. I can see like just the spark in you talking about these things. So will you tell our listeners and our watchers where can they learn more, find you, also champion you, sign up for all the things?
So if you want to connect directly, I am in the Instagram DMs all the time. You can find me at I am Tracy Matthews on Instagram. And then I am launching a new program, but if you want to get a taste of my reinvention process, you can download my free private podcast. It's called Reinvention Season. You can head on over to tracymatthews.com/reinvention season, or shoot me a DM and I'll send you the link on Instagram. And if you'd like to learn more about the art of reinvention, I will send you a link to that program.
I will link everything in the show notes so that we have that easy for you all to grab. But make sure you go follow Tracy and just follow this journey. And there's nothing more empowering, from my humble opinion, of watching someone who has lived it and is in that pivot and can really just wrap their arm around you and take you on that journey as you're stepping into something you're called to do. So thank you so much for being with me, for inviting me into your space.
It's my pleasure. This has been so fun.
It has. I'm already excited for round 2 someday.
Yes, me too.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for listening to the show today. I hope that you thought that was as incredible as I thought it was. I could honestly talk to Liz for hours about leadership and stepping into our calling. I never met her before this interview, and we've become friends, and it's just been so fun. The thing that hit me the most is when she said, don't ask and wish into existence the things you want most if you're not willing to go through the personal growth required to achieve them. That's so true. We want the success, the impact, the freedom, but are we willing to become the person who can actually handle and sustain those things? That's the real work, my friends. And this one seems very fitting, especially for all of you who are in a reinvention season. What level of disruption am I willing to go to access that calling? I literally wrote that down and I've been thinking about it a lot because it's such a truth bomb. So sometimes we think we want something, but are we actually willing to do what it takes to get there? So if you're feeling called to something bigger right now, or you're in the middle of a pivot or a transformation, I am sure this episode landed with you. So if you're stepping into your next level and anything that Liz resonated with you, I would love to invite you to join us for the Art of Reinvention program. Liz was one of our guest speakers last season, and I would love to invite you to take this next step with me and some amazing people. So if you haven't done so yet, you can check out the link in the show notes to get in an application. And more than anything, I would love for you to share this with someone who needs this message today. And also, do a favor for my guest. Say hello to her on Instagram. She is at Elizabeth Hartke on Instagram. And then also come by and say hi to me on Instagram. I'm at I am Tracy Matthews. Let us know what your biggest takeaway was. And if you enjoyed this, please share it in your stories or wherever you're hanging out on social media. Thanks for being here today. This is Tracy Matthews signing off. I'm so excited for next week's episode of Creatives Rule the World. Ciao for now.